Hello and welcome to Wingy Media's Hair of the 70s. I will get a haircut soon. However, let's talk about some of the best Doctor and companion relationships that we have ever seen of Doctor Who. And speaking of the 70s, it is well documented at this point how much I love Tom Baker and Elisabeth Sladen and their relationship and their chemistry and just everything about them. So in this list I'm not going to include them because I'll just sort of take that as they're the definitive number one. But here's some others that I quite like. I think it's a bit unfair to just talk about Tom and Elisabeth Sladen again when it's something that I do a fair amount. Usually a Doctor and companion can either make or break a series. Sometimes a Doctor and companion don't have the best of relationships or the best of chemistry and the series somewhat doesn't benefit from that. I would personally say something like Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman. Whilst they do have alright chemistry, the characterization and the on-screen relationship between the characters, for me at least, ultimately ruins Series 8 and Series 9. On the flip side though, with a Tom Baker and Elisabeth Sladen, you get two people who not only have great chemistry, but also have a great relationship on screen, great characterization on screen, and it just makes even the worst stories seem that little bit better. So today I'm going to talk about my three favourite, besides the obvious, Doctor companion relationships. I think I'll work backwards, so I'll start off with David Tennant and Catherine Tate, i.e. the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble. I've got to admit, out of the new series, this is probably my favourite. I just love it. I think for me it was the first time in the new version of Doctor Who, or the post-2005 version of Doctor Who, that we got a Doctor companion relationship that was the traditional classic series relationship, which was they're friends, plain and simply. There's no romantic undertones, there's no will they, won't they, there's no one of them lusts after the other. There was none of that. It was just back to the basics, ignore all that romance crap, just focus on two really good characters going around the universe together as friends, having a great time. For me, I've always been an anti-relationship for the Doctor type person. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a man, if it's a woman. I don't care if it's fucking K9. I don't want anybody in a relationship or having romantic interests towards or received from the Doctor. I just don't think it's necessary. The character of the Doctor is at its best when it's about exploring the universe and it's about showing people the universe. And yes, the Doctor does care for people. Yes, the Doctor does love people. Just not in a sexually charged or romantic way for me personally. And it was so refreshing to see the David Tennant Doctor, one who was just pining after Rose. And ultimately, the whole thing with Rose weakens season 2 for me, or series 2. And it also impacts on series 3 as well, because he's still clearly hung up on her. And there's obviously the stuff with Martha as well. It just gets annoying. So this was a breath of fresh air for me. I think David Tennant and Catherine Tate have fantastic chemistry together. And I also like the fact that because Catherine Tate is a comedic actress, you also get a lot of the comedy between them as well. David Tennant was very good at his comedic delivery throughout his tenure as the Doctor up to this point. So to have someone who is equally as capable, if not probably more capable, was just a joy. And Series 4 is arguably the best series of the modern era. I just wish we had more of it, you know? These two go on a roller coaster in the course of 13 episodes. You know, they have their high moments, they have their low points, they have their happy moments, they have their sad moments, but they ultimately are heading towards oblivion. And that ending in Journey's End where Donna has to have her memory erased, you know, the person that she became, and for her to have all of that personal progress taken away was heartbreaking. You know, this was someone who didn't really have the best life ever, was just a mundane, boring life, and she had the opportunity to see the universe and see how important her place in it was, and yet all of that was taken away from her, and it was such a shame. But at least, you know, David Tennant and Catherine Tate had one heck of a series. I don't think there's a standout proper shit episode in Series 4, but for me, part of the reason why Series 4 is one of my favourites is because of the Doctor and Donna in this series. So yeah, for me it's a no-brainer. David Tennant, Catherine Tate, easily the best pairing of the new series. So heading back to the classic series now, and of course I could talk about you know who. I want to, but I won't. But instead we'll head back a tiny bit further and we'll talk about John Pertwee and Katie Manning, aka the Third Doctor and Joe Grant. Now again, this is just a brilliant Doctor-companion relationship, and it's one that I don't think I've spoken about too much, which is weird because it is genuinely one of my favourites. I think the brilliance of this pairing is kind of the opposite of the David Tennant, Catherine Tate one, in the sense that these two are literally opposites. You couldn't get further apart. Whereas with David Tennant and Catherine Tate, it almost feels like they're on the same sort of level in terms of like their banter and, you know, where they're at in their lives and blah blah blah. Whereas with these two, they're not really the same. They are totally different, but yet they just fit. Jo is, in a lot of ways, the stereotypical Doctor Who girl. You know, she's young, she's attractive, she will ask a lot of questions, she's not necessarily the brightest, you know, she is literally the stereotype. But there is a lot more to her than that. Jo is actually quite resourceful, and a bit more resourceful than I think a lot of people tend to give her credit for. She saves the Doctor a number of different times. But not only that, she is so sweet, and it's obvious that she and John Pertwee had this really caring, loving relationship. You can see it there on screen, you know, the same way that I talk about how Tom Baker and Elisabeth Sladen got on is exactly how these two got on as well. You know, Pertwee's Doctor is very much the stern, heroic Doctor, the James Bond Doctor, and it's clear that he will be there. If he's needed, he will be there, and it's obvious that Jo, being the clumsy, all over the place character that she can be, is going to need saving at some point. Not because she's just useless and just gets herself into trouble, but because she's clumsy and does it by accident. I love, love, love their first scene together, where Pertwee is just dreading it, and he's like, is Liz definitely gone? Liz Shaw, she's gone? She's not coming back? Fuck. But you see them grow over the course of the series. You see that relationship blossom, and they really have an attachment to one another. So when you get to a story like The Green Death, it's really heartbreaking seeing those two separate, because it almost feels as if the Doctor is like a father to her, and it's almost like he's giving her away in a sense, or like she's flying away from the cuckoo's nest, or some metaphor for weddings and that. You know what I mean? Almost feels like she's outgrown the Doctor in a sense. And obviously this, alongside the sad timing of Roger Delgado's death, was one of the catalysts for John Pertwee leaving Doctor Who. So that's how much of an impact Katie Manning actually had on the man. But honestly, some of the greatest Doctor Who stories ever are with these two. I mean, the likes of the Sea Devils, the likes of Carnival of Monsters, the Three Doctors, Terror of the Autons I absolutely love. Like, there's so many. The Green Death, of course. And then finally we'll talk about another Doctor companion pairing, and that is the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, along with Jamie, Fraser Hines. Again, this pairing, for me, makes the second Doctor's era. I mean, Ben and Polly's fine, and stories like Power of the Daleks, of course, are absolutely fantastic, but for me the second Doctor's era doesn't really get going until Jamie's there, and especially after Ben and Polly leave, because you really understand how important Jamie is to the second Doctor's era. Even though we do get characters like Victoria and we get characters like Zoe, Jamie for me is the definitive second Doctor companion. The relationship that these two had, I think, is quite unique, because it's almost like the two of them were on the same level exactly. Like, I said this about David Tennant and Catherine Tate, but I mean literally Fraser Hines and Patrick Troughton just click. They have the exact same mentality, I feel, or at least that's how it comes across watching them on screen. And from the stories that I've heard as well, they were both pranksters and tricksters and whatnot, and they just used to wind everyone up, and they always have that spark in their eye, that glint in their eye. And the funny thing is, I've actually met Fraser Hines last year and he's still got it as well. It's obvious that those two are in a sense a double act, and they play it like so many other double acts. It's strange because it's obvious that the Doctor is naturally going to be the more intelligent one, and Jamie, being a Highlander, is going to be quite stupid. But they play on that, and I love how exaggerated the characters are sometimes, when you realise that sometimes Jamie is a bit more intelligent than the Doctor gives him credit for, and sometimes the Doctor isn't as intelligent as he makes himself out to be sometimes, and there's a few moments where they get things muddled up or mixed up and whatnot, and it always leads to something humorous, even subtle little moments. So for example, Tomb of the Cybermen, where they're both trying to reassure Victoria because she doesn't want to go into the tomb, and They both sort of reach for a hand, but they end up grabbing each other's hand and then quickly realise and go, oh, get off. It's moments like that that really make the second Doctor and Jamie such a great relationship to watch. The fact that Jamie lasted essentially the length of Patrick Troughton's era as well is again pretty much unheard of. Most Doctors have several companions throughout their era, and whilst yes, Patrick Troughton does, Jamie is essentially a mainstay. Even when they come back later on in the two Doctors, like, they've still got it. They're clearly older, but they still have that relationship and that dynamic. In the comments below though guys, let me know what you think. Who are some of your favourite Doctor and companion relationships? Obviously mine is the 4th Doctor and Sarah Jane, as well as the ones that I've mentioned. I mean, I like a fair chunk of them, to be fair. But whatever it is, you just let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description, as always. So if you'd follow me on any of those things, I would absolutely love you forever. But until next time guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.